New clutches for your dirt bike install tips right now.
Nice.
For this video, we'll be using a Vintco clutch kit in this 32-year-old RMX 250. It's pretty simple. A lot of the tips we use on this bike will be valuable on many other bikes, especially 90s generation bikes. So most kits, just like this Vintco kit, will come with all the fiber and steel plates you need. This one also comes with the springs, which is nice because the springs do get worn out. Before I get started, I like to measure the entire clutch stack so that when I've learned my lesson over the years, so I like to get this entire thickness. You can measure it in millimeters or in inches, whichever is good for you. And then I write it down. So when I pull out my stock one, replacing it with, that I make sure that I'm really close to that number. There's nothing drastically off. Sometimes we've gotten kits in the past. We bought kits from other companies. I like to double check that everything's correct. So before we get too much started, I'm going to get these fiber plates soaking in oil. So I like to just do this. I have a bucket set up and I get these things soaking so that they're ready to go by the time I get this clutch tore apart. These things will have plenty of oil on them like that. And then I can come through halfway through. I can just flip them around. My bucket doesn't have quite enough oil in here, but just have some fresh new oil in there. You can soak these things in. So one of the first things I like to do is get this brake pedal out of the way. On newer bikes, you can push the caliper down and push the lever out of the way. But on this bike, you're not going to be able to. You have to get it completely gone. And look at that. There's a washer, which a lot of the bikes nowadays do have. There's a washer that goes behind you, so you want to keep track of that. So before we lowered the bike over, we could have backed out. We want to get all this adjustment out of here, and we're going to disconnect the cable down at the bottom. So now that'll be enough. We don't have to take the cable all the way out of the lever. If we have the cable like that, we'll have enough room to be able to work with it. So with it loose up top, we can pull this off like this. On some bikes, you can here then pull the cable off. This bike, that doesn't want to give you enough room, so we'll have to take it off of here. And I want to mark it, so I put it back on in the same spot. Now this will be out of our way. We can just leave it anywhere like that. I set up a little work table with a bike stand so that I have that right there next to me to be able to set bolts at. So one of the reasons we have the bike laid over so that the oil doesn't drip out, even if you have the oil drained, it's a whole lot easier, not making as much of a mess. A little bit easier to work on it with it on its side. Just want the little tap to loosen it up with all the bolts off. I think there's some pins in there to hold it in place. Just pull that off like that. So in these older bikes, you can see you have to pay attention to where this is. You can't have this over here and expect it to line up. So we'll be like this when we go to reinstall it. Our gasket here, rubber O-ring gasket, looks like it's still in great shape. This bike doesn't have a ton of time on it, even though it's 32 years old. Wasn't ridden a lot. Pulling the pressure plate off. Right away, we can see that there's just little wear. So this thing's really still like new, which we kind of suspected. Is able to pull out all the plates in one fell swoop. A little bit of glaze on the fibers, and these things are really stuck together. I think got some flaking coming off just because they're so dang old, really. But not too bad. It wasn't abused. But it'll be nice to have a new one in there. A new clutch plates. There's nothing like it, especially in a two-stroke. These things are really stuck. There we go. So now I'm going to measure my stack, and my stack is the new one's about 3 or 4 thousandths thicker, about 4 thousandths thicker than this one, which is great. So I know I'm good to go with our new clutch. Here's our stock springs, and you can definitely even feel, a little bit less, tension there. So we should get a good clutch feel with the new ones. We're going to set that aside. I will keep this around just as a backup, but you could probably just toss it because they are so old. So our clutch plate's been soaking here for a good 15, 20 minutes. Okay, so we're set up pretty well right here, right now. I got my metals right here. There's no special order on these plates, so I can put those in any order. With the steel plates, there is one edge that has like a sharper edge on it and one that's got rounded. We typically will put them down like this, that sharper edge straight, just like that. Typically, I don't think it makes any difference. I've got my fiber plates set up right here, and I just set up a rag here so I don't drip oil all over the side as I drop each one in. So I'm going to drop that one in, and then I'm going to drop in a steel. So a pretty simple deal, obviously. Having calipers to measure that thickness will save you a lot of time. We've had a lot of guys be off on their stack. Now, on some more modern bikes, with the KTMs, they will have some different orders, and some of the recluse parts would have some different orders of things. So you want to pay attention if they have any special instructions. Also, as far as instructions go, you can also just look up the microfiche for your parts in the parts finder and look up at, when and you can see the order of plates, if any of the plates are different from each other, anything like that. Okay, again, our pressure plate was all in great shape. If you've seen any wear on the outer basket or inner hub, it'd be time to address those issues. But we're going to assume you guys are doing this to a bike that doesn't need any extra attention. Springs dropping in. I like to tighten these down somewhat evenly, and you can break those tabs off. Ask me how I know. Because I know. I think I did one on an early 90s RM 250, like in 1990 or so. Very small threads, on the bolts. So I'm keeping pressure on the spring while I get it started. And that's why I'm not using my gun. I don't want to risk doing any damage. So they are small threads, and that's why I think they can get cross-threaded kind of easy. And you're keeping pressure. So it's a little tricky to do both, but I'm kind of getting them all, I'm going to get them all driven down to that point. I'm sure someone has a really good technique for doing this, but my left hand there is holding down while I feel it catching the threads. I could see something with a socket or something over the diameter collapsing that spring. And you want to get it. I could see why you could pull some threads out of the top if you just get a couple going, like 1.5, 2 threads, and then let go. You want to keep going. Okay, so now I've got them all started and going good. And I'm not going to use my gun on these. Just since they're so small, I want to get a good feel by hand on these things. Okay, I'm bouncing around. Your pattern is not critical, just as long as you're, rotating around so you're not driving any one of them down all the way before the other one. Your motor will kind of act like your torque wrench. You can feel it right against that compression. Okay, so now at this point, they like kind of turn the motor over there. And you can look up the exact torque and use your torque wrench if you'd like. It's such a small torque that I don't feel comfortable and don't trust that we don't overbrake and snap. I get a lot of guys commenting that when they went to torque it, they snapped it. Maybe their torque wrench is off. That's it. Okay. Our O-ring's still in really good shape and feels good on here. It's standing proud and tall. It's probably a good idea to order one if you're not sure, so you have it ready to go. So here we're going to turn this little actuator arm to where we're lined up when it goes in here, just like this. Feel it grab. I was kind of turning these teeth a little bit to help it fall onto place. So we dropped it on, and there's little marks right here. So it's been a long time since I did one of these. It really doesn't matter where that lines up as long as your angle here is where you need it to be. I'm dropping our bolts in, and I'd like to make sure that we have the right length bolts in every spot. So you put them all in before you start tightening any of them down. So this way I can see that they're all standing just about the same distance up. So with these, it's just a good snug. And I got a good feel with my T-handle. Okay, so now we have our cable back in here. We're going to put our bolt in here and then we'll go adjust up top. That's a little trick to get it to pop on. We have a little bit of, so we know we're in the right spot because we have tension. We want to have just a little bit of play about like that right there. So we're ready to, we can put this back on. This is a works connection perch. Just a little bit of grease on that washer so it stays in place and is nice right there, just like that. Okay, so we're good and tight. Thing feels good. You can put your cotter pin back in if you like. Okay, so it's that easy. New Vintco clutch in the 93 RMX 250. We're gonna go start this thing up and check it out right now. Come to a stop. Gets into neutral good. Oh, so good. And then, oh, it doesn't even lurch forward anymore. It used to do that before with the old clutch.